Hi guys, this is Saad from Fantasia. I'm a digital artist. In this video, I'm going to show you how to blend these images to make amazing image like this one. If you want to work on the same images, you will find the link in description below and you can download from there. If this is your first time on my YouTube channel, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon for more interesting Photoshop tutorials. Without further wasting any time, let's get started. This is our background image. Duplicate the background layer by pressing Shift key Ctrl plus J and then press Ctrl plus T to rotate and make the gross surface look straight and hit enter. Now select the crop tool by pressing C, or you can select from the toolbar by clicking on the crop tool icon and crop it like this and then hit enter. Now you can see bottom left corner of the image need to be fixed. First create a new blank layer by clicking on the create new layer icon at the bottom of the layer panel. Now select the clone stamp tool by pressing S and then take the sample from the bottom right corner of the image and then paint on the left corner. Now select both layer and convert into smart object and then press Ctrl plus G to add this layer into the group and drag the mountain on this image. Hit enter. Now make the selection of the mountains using channels. First hide all the layers except this one. Go to channels panel, click on each of three colors channel to see which has more contrast. And then duplicate the channel with more contrast by pressing Ctrl plus J. Now press Ctrl plus L to open the levels tab and then bring the left slider to the right and right to the left to make the mountains completely black and the remaining area will be completely white. And then click on OK. Again press Ctrl plus L and bring the left slider to the right and right to the left and then click on OK. For the remaining area, select the hard round brush, opacity to 100%. To remove the black spots, select the foreground color white. Press X to change the foreground and background color. Now remove the whites from the mountains. Select the foreground color black. Now hold Ctrl and click on this layer to make the selection and then click on RGB channel and go to layers panel. And click on mask icon at the bottom of the layers panel and press Ctrl plus I to invert the mask. And then press Ctrl plus T to adjust the size and the position of the mountains. Now click on layer mask icon and then select the soft round brush. Decrease the opacity to 15 to 17%. Foreground color black and paint on the edges of the mountain. Now go to new adjustment layer by clicking on the half circle icon at the bottom of the layers panel and then click on hue and saturation and then clip it to the mountains layer and then click on yellows and decrease the saturation little bit and brightness as well to match the mountains with the background. And you can experiment with all the colors here and play with the sliders to match the colors and the brightness of the mountains with the background. I think now it looks good. Again, go to new adjustment layer, this time select curves and click on middle point of this line. First make sure this layer at this adjustment layer, clip it to the below layer and drag down top point of this line to make the brightest area of the mountains little bit darker. Again, go to new adjustment layer, this time click on levels and bring this left slider to the right little bit to make the shadows little bit brighter. And you can play this slider as well to see where it looks good. Now I'm going to add another mountain on this image and then make the selection of the mountain using channels method that I used before, and you can use quick selection tool as well. First hide all the layers except this one and then go to channels panel. Duplicate the channel with more contrast by pressing Ctrl plus J and then press Ctrl plus L to open the levels tab and bring the left slider to the right and right to the left to make the mountains completely black and the remaining area completely white. And now select the brush, decrease the opacity to 100% and the foreground color white. If you want to make the selection of anything, make sure area of the selection will be completely black or white. If you want area of the selection black, then make sure remaining area will be completely white. And if you want area of the selection black, then make sure remaining area will be completely white. Now hold Ctrl and click on this layer to make the selection and then click on RGB and go to layers panel and click on mask icon at the bottom of the layers panel and press Ctrl plus I to invert the mask and select the brush opacity to 100% and foreground color white to fill the blank spot in the mountain and select the blur tool and paint on the edges to make the edges softer. Now press Ctrl plus T to adjust the size and the position of the mountains. Now click on layer mask icon and select the soft tone brush opacity to 100% and change the foreground color to black by pressing X key and paint to remove the unwanted area of the mountains. Next, what I'm going to do is match the saturation and the brightness of the mountain using hue and saturation. Click on new adjustment layer and select hue and saturation. First clip it to the below layer and then click on hand icon and take the sample from the mountain. Now this will only affect cyan color. First decrease the saturation and you can play with these 3 slider and see where it looks good. Now match the brightness with the background. I think now it looks fine. Now drag another mountain on this image and then make the selection of the mountain using channels. Now you can use quick selection tool as well. I think it's easier. Now duplicate the channel with more contrast and then press Ctrl plus L to open the levels tab and bring the left slider to the right and right to the left to make mountains completely black. Click on OK and then select brush, foreground color black and paint on the mountain. Now hold Ctrl and click on this layer to make the selection and then click on RGB and go to layers panel and click on layer mask icon at the bottom of the layers panel and press Ctrl plus I to invert the mask and then select the brush select the blur tool and paint on the edges of the mountain to make the edges softer. Now drag down mountain layer, drop it above the background layer. Now press Ctrl plus D and click on flip horizontal and then adjust the size and the position of the mountain to make it smaller and then hit enter. Now click on layer mask icon and select the foreground color black and remove the unwanted area of this mountain and then go to new adjustment layer, click on hue and saturation. First clip it to the below layer and decrease the saturation a little bit and then click on hand icon and take the sample from the mountain and decrease the saturation a little bit and click on masters and then increase the brightness of the whole mountains to match with the background. And you can experiment with all the colors here and play with these sliders and see where it looks good. Now it looks good. Next, what I'm going to do is add the beer on this image. Drag the beer into the Photoshop. Now rotate little bit and then hit enter. Now make the selection of the beer. Go click on quick selection tool and then click on select subject and this will automatically make the selection of the beer. If you are using previous version of Photoshop, I think this tool is not available. You can use quick selection tool. Now remove the selection from this area. Now click on mask icon at the bottom of the layers panel and press Ctrl plus G, add this layer into the group, and then go to select option and click on select and mask holding shift, and then take the brush and paint on the edges of the beards to bring back some hairs. And now you can see now selection looks good, and then click on OK. And now take the soft round brush and make sure click on mask icon on the layer and decrease the opacity, foreground color black, and now remove these blacks all around the edges of the beard with the soft round brush and opacity to 20 to 30%, and just keep removing until you get done. Create new blank layer and clip it to the below layer by holding Alt and click, and then select the brush and hold Alt and click to take the sample and paint on these here. Just paint on all around the beard. Keep painting until first take the sample near the area and paint on the edges here until it looks fine. Now it's almost done painting on the edges of the beard. Now you can see it looks better than before. Now next I'm going to add this skull on this image. Hit enter. Now make the selection of this girl. You can use quick selection too. This option is not available in your Photoshop variant. Then click on the mask icon at the bottom of the layer panel, and now you can see it's pretty good job. Now remove this area. Now remove this unwanted area. Take the brush foreground color black and make sure you click on the layer mask icon on the layer. Just paint on this area to remove. And now take your time and keep removing until it looks good. Now I think I am almost done removing unwanted area. Now drag down a little bit. So now it's like she's standing on the grass. Now next what I'm going to do is add the sky in the background.
drag this image. Now make it bigger and drag down a little bit and see where it looks good, and then hit enter. And I click on mask icon at the bottom of the layers panel and select the brush foreground color black and remove this area. Next, click on new adjustment layer icon at the bottom of the layer panel and select the hue and saturation. And first, make sure you right click this adjustment layer to the below layer and just play with hue and see where it looks good to you. And decrease the saturation and increase the brightness a little bit. I think sky looks too much yellowish, so bring the hue slider on the cyan and blue. I think now it looks good. And now click on beer layer and press Ctrl plus D and little drag down a little bit and make it smaller like this. So put it to the right spots where it looks good to you. I think now it looks fine. Now add the grass on the feet of the beer so that it looks much more realistic. First you have to find the legacy brush pack. If you don't have there, don't worry. Just click on this brush icon and then click on this icon here and just there you have to find the legacy brush. So there you go, just click on it and then click on legacy brush, not default brush, and there you have to find the grass brush and then click on it. Now click on the layer mask icon on the layer and foreground and background color black, and now paint on the feet of the bear. Just paint on the feet. Just keep painting until it looks good. Now you can see it's already making a sense. And that looks good. Okay, now it looks much more realistic. So now do the same with the gull image. First press Ctrl plus D and make a little bit smaller. And hit enter. Hit enter and click on layer mask icon and paint on the feet with the grass brush and make sure foreground and background color black. Just paint on this until it looks fine. now I think it looks good. So now I'm happy with this. Now next what I'm going to do is match the saturation of the beer with the background. Go to adjustment layer and click on hue and saturation. First clip it to the below layer, select the yellows. This will only affect the yellows on the beer. Decrease the saturation a little bit. Now it looks better. Now click on Gull image layer and go to adjustment layer and click on levels. First clip it to the below layer and then bring this shadow slider a little bit to the right to make the shadows a little bit brighter. Again go to new adjustment layer and this time click on color balance. There select the highlights and add the red a little bit to the highlight and the green as well. Okay, now it's fine. Now you can see white edges on the right side of this girl image. Looks really distracting. To remove these edges, click on layer mask icon of this girl image layer and then select the hard round brush. Make this brush little bit smaller, opacity to 100% and select the foreground color black and then remove these white edges. Now you can see I'm pretty much done with the removing white edges. Next what I'm going to do is add the manually highlight and the shadows using brush. First create the new blank layer by clicking on the create new layer icon at the bottom of the layer panel. Then clip it to the below layer by holding alt and click. Select the foreground color white and blend mode to soft light and then just decrease the opacity and then paint the highlight. First paint on the arms and then head and paint some highlight on the back and the legs too. Okay, now it's done. Okay, now select the crop tool by pressing C, or you can select from the toolbar by clicking on the crop tool icon and crop it. And crop it like this and then hit enter. Okay, now that looks good. Next what I'm going to do is add the little fog on the background. First click to expand the background group. To add the fog, first create the blank layer by clicking on the create new layer icon at the bottom of the layer panel. Then go to filter and render and click on clouds and change the blend mode normal to screen. And then click on mask icon at the bottom of the layers panel. And now press Ctrl plus T and transform like this and then hit enter. Now press Ctrl plus I and take the brush, decrease the opacity and foreground color white, and now paint the fog on the background. And make sure first click on mask icon on this cloud layer and then press Ctrl plus I to invert and take the brush foreground color white and then paint with the soft brown brush. Decrease the opacity 30 to 20 to 30% and foreground color white. Now I'm pretty much done with the painting fog, and then select the background group layer and right click on it and convert into smart object. Go to filters, blur, gallery and click on tilt blur. So now I'm going to blur the background little bit so it makes it more realistic. Drag down this line because I don't want the blur effect on this area. Now keep this value 4 to 5. So I don't want the too much blurry background, and then click on OK. Now add the sunlight on the left side of this image. First create the blank layer by clicking on this icon and then select the soft round brush, change the color white to orange and then click OK. Now make this brush little bit bigger and then just click on the left side. Change the blend mode normal to screen. Now press Ctrl plus T and make it a little bit bigger. Again click on create new layer icon. Change the blend mode normal to screen. I think I have to decrease the opacity of this layer. So now you can see this looks much more realistic. Now paint some highlights on the beard. First create the new blank layer above the beard layer by clicking on the create new layer icon. And then clip this blank layer to the below layer by holding alt and click. Now whatever you paint on this layer, this will only affect the beard image layer. Now press hold alt and click and take the sample. Now select the brush by pressing B and decrease the opacity to 15 to 25%. and paint some highlight on this area, and then paint on this area. And I'll paint some highlights on the legs too, and just keep painting the highlights on the beer where you think light will hit. Now it looks good to me. You can paint some more highlights if you want. Next, click on mask icon on the beer image layer and select the blur tool and paint on these hairs to make them look a little bit softer. So now you can see these hair looks better than before. And just keep painting on these hair on the edges where you see these hair looks too harsh and make them soft a little bit. Next I'm going to paint some shadows on the beard using curves. First go to new adjustment layer by clicking on the half circle icon at the bottom of the layer panel and then select curves. First clip it to the below layer and click on the middle point of this line and drag down a little bit to make this beard darker. And now press Ctrl plus I to invert it and select the soft round brush, opacity 10 to 20% and foreground color white, and paint on this area and just keep painting the shadows where you think light will not hit. On the legs and the right side of the face. I paint some shadows on the left leg as well. And now you can see with the shadows, it looks more realistic. Paint shadows on the feet as well. And just keep painting the shadows until it looks good to you. If you want to remove eyeshadows on some area, just change the foreground color white to black by pressing X key and just remove the shadows. Okay, now I'm done with the painting shadows. If shadows looks too dark on the beer image, then select the shadows curves layer and go to opacity at the top of the layers panel. And maybe you like to keep it 70 to 80% opacity of the shadow layer. Again, paint some highlights on the right leg of the beer. First, select the highlight layer that you already created before for painting highlights on the beer. It's better to name these layers before because later it will make harder for you find the correct layer which you have to work on. That's the beer, and yeah, this is the one highlight layer. Now select the soft round brush, decrease the opacity 8 to 15% and paint highlight on this area because light will definitely hit on this area. And now zoom out and see. Now it looks good. Now you can see there is definitely something missing on this image. Yep, that's the shadow of the beer. To create the shadow, go to adjustment layer at the bottom of the layer panel, click on levels to open the levels tab. And now you can see there are two sliders and just play with these two sliders to make the background a little bit darker to create the shadow. And then press Ctrl plus I to invert it and select the soft round brush, and you can change the brush shape like this and decrease the opacity 15 to 25% and make sure to select the foreground color to white and then paint the shadows on the ground and just paint like this and zoom out to see what it looks like. I think it looks okay. If you accidentally paint shadows on unwanted area, to remove it, just change the foreground color white to black and paint on unwanted area to remove the shadow. Now decrease the opacity to make the shadows a little bit brighter. Okay, now it looks better. Just keep paint the shadows, and you can see white fog on the background looks a little bit distracting, and I'm going to change the white fog to, I think, a little bit yellowish. Now double click on background layer and this will open another tab, and click to expand this background group and select the fog layer. And go to adjustment layer. At the bottom of the layers panel, click on hue and saturation. This will open the hue and saturation tab, and first clip it to the below layer. Now this will only affect the fog layer, and I'm going to change the fog white to a little bit yellowish, and make sure to check the colorize box and just play with these three slider: hue, saturation and brightness, to match with the background. Okay, now it looks good. And now press Ctrl plus S to save it. But I think fog looks too yellowish. Just decrease the opacity of the hue and saturation, and now you can see it looks good. And again press Ctrl plus S to save it and close this tab. Okay, now you can see the whole image looks good, but that grass, I think, need to be a little bit saturated. So go to the adjustment layer by clicking on half circle icon at the bottom of the layer panel and select the hue and saturation. Now click on this hand icon and take the sample, and now increase the saturation little bit. Now it looks fine. And then take the brush by pressing B and increase the opacity to 100%, and make sure to change the foreground color white to black by pressing X key. Now remove saturation from this area. Just paint on this area to remove it. Okay, now you can see it's removing. I don't want the effect on this area, so now it looks good. Decrease the saturation a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. Now let's see if there is anything I can change to make this image look more realistic. Yeah, I think I have to work on the shadows of the beer a little bit. So select the shadow there that you already created before to paint the shadows on that beer. Then select the soft round brush and to remove the shadows, make sure to change the foreground color to black, and to paint the shadows, change the foreground color to white. And now I'm going to paint the shadows manually. Okay, on this area. Just keep painting until it looks good to you. Now I'm about to finish painting the shadows of the bear. Next, create the blank layer above this layer. Now click on the create new layer icon at the bottom of the layer panel, and first clip it to the below layer by holding Alt and click. And then select the brush by pressing B and take the sample from the nearest area by holding Alt and click,
and then paint on these hair on the edges of the beard to blend with the background. And make sure to select take the sample from the nearest area by holding Alt and click, and then paint on these hair on the edges. So now I'm about to finish this tutorial. If you enjoyed this tutorial, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon for more tutorials. Now select the top layer and then press Ctrl Shift Alt plus E to merge these layers together. And go to filter, click on camera raw filter. Now this will open the camera raw filter. If you are using previous version of Photoshop, then you will see some changes on the camera raw filter. And don't worry, you have everything what you need. Now I'm in saturation panel and you can see this slider. Just play with this slider. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, then don't forget to leave a like and comment below and share with your friends. No. Okay, now I'm about to finish and see you soon. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon for more Photoshop tutorials.